Hello and welcome back to the All Out Brits podcast, the podcast that brings you everything you'd expect from an NFL podcast, but from across the seas in now sub-temperature, miserable, wet, but Christmassy, lovely England. And as always, to join me for all the wonderful stuff we've got going on this week is Mr. Elliot Greenwood. You might be wondering why there's no intro this week. Well, half this podcast gave up on the NFL this week and didn't really want to talk about it, but we're here. And I'm sure there's someone that will be chatting a lot more than the other this week. Mr. Greenwood, how did you enjoy the NFL this week?
Well, you may have given up on the podcast on the NFL, but I have been rejuvenated by what I've seen, mate. I've seen the teams that I wanted to win. I've seen them win in dramatic fashion. I've seen some of the best 5 minutes of football ever. On top of that, some of the worst 5 minutes of football ever. I've seen running backs run all over teams from the Bay Area of San Francisco. I've seen Green Bay do unbelievable things over in San Francisco. And I've seen a frown on your face for the first time in a while, my friend, as you found out what life would be like without Brock Purdy. But all this is to come on the pod, mate. So let's start off and let's start bright. Let's start with a smile on our face. And I think we will talk about my team first. What do you think about that, mate?
I think that's a great idea. Let's get it out of the way. The Dallas Cowboys versus the Washington Commanders, a divisional clash, which again, I think probably ruined a lot of people's bets this weekend, mine included. I cannot believe what happened in this game. I'm pretty sure you can't believe it either, but what an unbelievable game that game was.
I feel like the last 5 minutes of that game was some of the craziest goddamn shit that I've ever seen on an NFL football field. Okay, coming into this game, Cowboys got 3 wins. We haven't won in 5 games. All right, the Commanders, they've stumbled a little bit, but you still think at home they're going to get the job done against a backup quarterback, a subpar Dallas Cowboys team. But it didn't happen. Why? Because it's the NFC East and you can't predict this shit, man. Just crazy stuff happens when the Cowboys and the Commanders play football. It's a kind of historic rivalry. And this, again, another rivalry, one for the records. Last 5 minutes of this game, we had missed PATs, we had missed kicks, we had block punts, we had 2 touchdown kickoff returns that went the other way for 6. An incredible, incredible game of football. And Cooper Rush, the quarterback of the Cowboys, looked calm. He looked composed. He got the ball to CeeDee Lamb, 10 catches for him, getting him involved. That's what we like to see. And he just looked a little bit more of a calm quarterback than what we've seen previously. What did you think of this game, mate? Because it was absolutely cookie. It was proper crazy. If there was a game that describes the Dallas Cowboys season, it would be this one.
It definitely would be. I think what this game showed is, one, the Dallas Cowboys still have some pretty good elements to it. I mean, that defense is ridiculous. I must say, they've still got some serious talent in there. It's something you can really build off, as a franchise. I think the O-line has done a really good job this week, particularly protecting Cooper Rush, which I think is what he needed. And I think you've just got some unbelievable special teams players, some general depth players. And I think you pretty much have everything there, but the offense doesn't click all the time when it needs to. And partly because of the fact that if you're playing from behind, as we know, you start having to change your game plan. And we saw this week the run game of the Dallas Cowboys. I tell you what, early Christmas present, because wow, I've never seen that before. But we also saw the downfall slightly of the Washington Commanders. I think we saw that they're there, but not quite there yet. I don't know what you thought about them, but I just think it's kind of unraveled a little bit. I think the hype that was being built, I think after that Steelers game, it just seems to be sort of unraveling a little bit. And Jaden Daniels, MVP, and his Rookie of the Year season seems to be crumbling before everybody's eyes.
I agree with you there, mate. I think Bo Nix is now the consensus number 1 for offensive rookie of the year, and rightly so. Jaden Daniels started the season absolutely electrically, and Dan Quinn kind of started off as the coach of the Commanders absolutely fantastically as well. But what went right in this game for the Commanders and what went wrong for them? What went wrong was they started really slowly, and they try and use the quarterback as a passing first quarterback. He isn't that. We know how kind of good he is kind of passing the ball, but when he's rushing, when he's got the ball in his hands and he's finding those running lanes and you're giving him the option plays, that's when he's the most dangerous. You saw that on his rushing touchdown. He was absolutely fantastic of taking the ball away from Austin Eckler and running himself. That's what we need to see more of from the Washington Commanders if they want to kind of get the best out of Jaden Daniels. because although he is fantastic throwing the ball, he is a run-first quarterback, and that's what he
Yeah.
should be because he's so dangerous. That's why he got the Heisman, okay? It's because he's so dangerous with the
Yeah.
ball in his hands. He's so quick, he's so agile. He is the next Lamar Jackson, but I
Mhm.
don't think Dan Quinn has been able to execute probably past week 4 or 5
Yeah.
as he would have liked to.
And I think a big part of that is the fact that, again, he's got two elite running backs behind him. You've got Austin Eckler and you've got Brian Robinson, who've been pretty good this year. The thing that surprised me is obviously Brian Robinson goes down pretty early doors. And I thought, okay, that would signal, like you said, more running plays, more QB draws, things like that. And we know that this Dallas D is very susceptible to the fact that they can struggle a lot, yards on the ground, etc., etc. Now, I think there was parts of that. I mean, trying to read Micah Parsons, and I saw, the analysis from that of these sort of play actions or, his RPOs. And I think it worked to an extent. But again, like you said, they just weren't clicking early doors. And the problem is if something isn't working and it's not working effectively in the moment, you have to make change. I think that is what Dan Quinn did. Like you said, he started changing the game plan a little bit, but I think it went away from the identity that we've known from that offense. And eventually we go from having hardly any points at halftime and in the third quarter to getting 40 plus in that final quarter. Just sum up what those last few minutes felt like for you.
Video game, mate. Absolute video game football. I think
Yeah.
the one for me, that Cavante Turpin touchdown, where he
Wow.
absolutely just spun a man on a roundabout
Yeah.
around him, spun half the team out, and he just turned on the gas, and he was electric on that. He's been one of the best special team players since he's come into the league, one of the best returners since he's come into the league. And special teams has really been something for Dallas that has been pretty good the last few seasons.
Yeah.
Brandon Aubrey missed 2 kicks, though. That doesn't happen. That doesn't
Mhm.
happen. That's only happened once before that he's missed 2 kicks in the game. Guess who that was against, Taron? The Washington
Washington
Commanders.
Commanders.
How interesting is that statistic? But I just think that Terry McLaurin touchdown, that's going to be forgotten about, but it shouldn't be because that
Yeah.
was unbelievable. Those plays don't happen. I think the Cowboys were so kind of obsessed with defending the sideline that they forgot to. They literally just forgot to defend the players, and you've got to make them tackles. But Terry McLaurin put the Jets on as well. But how do you miss that kick? How, after all that,
Not the time.
bad snap, good hold, bad
Mhm.
kick. We've spoken about kicking before on the podcast, Alan, in great detail. You got to have 3 things right to kick an extra point. They just didn't, did the Commanders?
And what does this game feel like for you? Because I think, as I said before, it feels like we've kind of identified the fact that the Cowboys elements are still pretty much there. Do you think this is a confidence boost for next season? Do you think it's a bit of a kick on for this season? What do you think this means to you and sort of Cowboys fans?
I think this means we're not going to get Shadir Sanders. We're not going to get Travis Hunter.
Mm.
We might get Ashton Genty if we're lucky, if he falls. But I just think at the moment we're just playing ourselves out of a decent draft pick because there's some really, really bad teams in the NFL that would love Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter is not going to be there past pick number 2. So yeah, we're just playing ourselves out of a good pick, unfortunately, at the moment, mate.
Well, speaking of good draft picks, let's talk about a man who, again, dropped, wasn't really looked at, but has come back and had a pretty interesting time in the NFL. That is Mr. Will Levis, the man who struggles to contain himself and last in the pocket without an O-line. But with an O-line this week, we saw that, again, he still can't last in the pocket whatsoever. 8 sacks and somehow still managed to beat the Houston Texans with CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. We saw crazy game this week. This one might be one of the biggest shocks we've seen this week and the whole season. What can you even say about this? Tennessee Titans come out with a win against Texans.
And when you look at all the statistics, you wonder how, you wonder why, you wonder where this has all come from.
Yeah.
Obviously, Will Levis being dropped and he's been started again.
Yeah.
He still has an absolutely hilarious play every single week, and that pick 6 was just that. Chasing after that, he looks like a man possessed, but you just know that he wasn't going to stop that ball going for 60 away. But one thing I would say is CJ Stroud looks a little bit washed. He looks very, very kind of shaky. He looks nervous. He looks like a rookie. And Will Levis just had a cleaner game. Simple as that. Will Levis had a cleaner game, and he had a bit of a rushing attack that he can lean on. Tony Pollard was superb. 24 carries, just touching 120 yards and a touchdown on the day for him. But when your defense goes the other way and gets you 6 points, you've got to reward them. And you've got to reward them by keeping the ball, by moving the chains, giving them time to rest. Joe Mixon this week wasn't as explosive as we'd all like him to be. And I think that really, really cost them. I think when Joe Mixon last week against the Cowboys could really, really get it going, CJ Stroud looked back to himself, looked back to kind of being that competent quarterback that we all know and love. And even this week, Nico Collins back, kind of 5 catches, 92 yards and a touchdown for him. CJ Stroud just doesn't look it this season. Your MVP shout before the season started, mate. What's gone wrong this season for Stroud?
It just seems very, I don't know. I think a big part of what we've seen with the rookies, again, I think Brock struggled with it in parts last season. I think he struggled with it in parts this season, is when people first see these rookies come in, you're trying to figure them out on the fly, but people have had off seasons to prepare now. They have tape to prepare now. And I think that is slowly becoming the downfall. I think that's what I noticed this week is D'Amico Ryans called these play actions, which you haven't really seen from CJ Stroud. He's known as a man sit in the pocket and deliver. I think that O-line's been pretty poor in parts for him and hasn't really helped him out too much. But we saw more play actions and he looked a lot more confident, at the very least. But then when the pressure was on him, like you said, and they really, really struggled in parts to establish themselves, the fact that they had 7 points on the board after about 20 seconds is absolutely ridiculous, and somehow end up losing that game is wild. But I think a big part of that is the fact that the Titans actually had a really, really good game. As bad as CJ Stroud was, all credit to Tennessee Titans. They managed to stuff the run, which has been so difficult, especially with Joe Mixon, as you said, since he's been back, has been absolutely on fire. And then again, managed to finally get pressure onto a quarterback. And when you put pressure on quarterbacks, make mistakes and they get uncomfortable. And CJ Stroud is not a man that wants to be uncomfortable. And I think that's what we end up seeing in the very end.
Do you think this is kind of season over for the Houston Texans, or can you see them making a playoff push? Because I think for me, it's looking kind of nigh on impossible. The way that CJ Stroud is playing at the moment, if he can't keep the ball clean, if you're being outplayed at quarterback by Will Levis, it doesn't look promising. And obviously, Will Levis coming on top this one, looking like the more competent quarterback. Kind of where do you see the Tennessee Titans building off of this one as well, mate?
I mean, the interesting thing is he hasn't really had anyone new added to his team in that sense. I mean, Stephon Diggs probably took him a bit of time to get used to him and sort of his roots and the way he was running. And I think him going down has probably caused a bit of decline almost in him, because we saw last year he had no issues throwing to Tank Dell and Nico Collins, and there was no concerns whatsoever. And now they've been pushed one up more in sort of the depth chart, and their sort of roles changed a little bit. They just don't look as comfortable together as a unit. And I think that's a big problem. I think D'Amico Ryans, again, as a coach, I love him. I think he's one of the greatest people ever. But I think he's kind of finding that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I do think they find a way to coach themselves out of this. I do think they are a very good team. I do think CJ Stroud will come back around from this. But like you said, it's all dependent on whether he can keep himself clean and whether this team can stand up really and help him out. What about you? What do you think about our self-proclaimed GOAT on this podcast?
I think he's following the trajectory, like I've said before, of Dak Prescott. Okay, this season the Houston Texans, they will go either 8-9 or 9-8. Okay, that's what Dak Prescott. He went 8-8 in his second season as a starter. Season after that, he's gonna have a losing record. Okay, his coach will get fired. Okay, season after that, new coach, new energy, new touchdowns, new players, new plays. CJ Stroud will then get paid, and then he will start the Dak decline. All right, mark my words. Something's going to go. His wrist will get injured. His hamstring will go. It'll fall off the boat. And suddenly CJ Stroud is the next Dak Prescott. And at that point, he'll have a star on his helmet. So it will all make sense. It'll all make sense. He'll come over to the other team in Dallas, in Texas, sorry, and it will just all make sense. But yeah, I don't know, mate. It's a bit of a decline. Yeah. One quarterback though that he's going the other way, and he's kind of coming up in our opinions and up in our minds. He's a man that this week went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. He went toe-to-toe with 15. He's a little guy with a big heart and a big dream, and that man is Bryce Young. And this game was the Chiefs versus the Panthers. How amazing was it to see that stadium packed and rocking in Carolina? I don't think I saw an empty seat. I've not seen a stadium that packed and full in ages. And it just looked fantastic with the city skyline in the background, a full stadium. That's what football's about, man. Yeah. That is what the league is about. And Bryce Young has done that. He's got the fans excited because he's played good quarterback. That's what we wanted from him. And this week he went toe-to-toe with Mahomes. I think he arguably had a better game than Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. But in the end, the Kansas City Chiefs come away with a victory on this one. What did you make of this game, mate? I thought it was quite an underrated game of the week. Obviously, there were so many kind of twists and
100%.
turns in the other fixtures, but this one was a bit of a storyline.
100%. And I think it was a very big learning curve, one for everyone in the NFL, but also for Bryce Young himself. Like you said, last few weeks, all the memes on TikTok are, I finally get it. I get it now. And he actually has got it, to be fair. He's not making these stupid passes. He'll throw the ball away if he knows he's going to take a sack. And that is what you want from a quarterback, especially a sophomore quarterback who had such a turbulent year last year. The other issue is you've got Mahomes on the other side of the field. And the Panthers, as much as they held him up, to say the very least, I don't think Mahomes, as we've said all season long, isn't at his best. But still, you can't leave time on the clock for Patrick Mahomes because he's going to find a way to get into field goal range or get a touchdown. And I think eventually that's what we saw. But for the Panthers, we got Thielen back. They just look like he's finally managed to find his receivers. He's trying to find different routes. He's leaning on the ground game as well, which pretty much has been very successful for him. That Panthers organization, from the joke that they were last year and the joke they were at the start of this season, it's a complete 180. And it turns out that having Mr. Dalton start for a few games has clearly changed the fortunes of absolutely everyone in that franchise. Took a lot of pressure off Bryce Young, and he's playing some seriously good ball at the moment.
He is, mate, and he looked really calm and composed on fourth down as well. On third and fourth downs, he was getting the ball to his slot receivers, and he was finding those kind of players that were in 5 yards of space. These kind of players that weren't getting open last season, and it isn't a bad defense either. This is a very, very good. This is a championship defense. Nothing's really changed from when they won the Super Bowl last year. Still got Trent McDuffie, still got kind of Chris Jones on the D line. And they just carved him apart in places. Chuba Hubbard as well on the ground, contributing very, very, very nicely. He's turned out to be quite the gem at running back. But I just think if Bryce Young keeps kind of progressing the way that he is doing, he needs to bulk up a little bit as well so we can take some of the hits. But just looking a bit more like his old self, like he did in college, the future is nothing but bright in Carolina, because I don't think I've seen a man look like he enjoys playing football more than that guy. And that unit in Carolina seems so tight-knit. It seems like they've kind of gone through this all together. And they seem like such a family, all right? And they seem like they're fighting for each other because they're fighting for the jobs. You love to see it over in Carolina.
And I think the best thing about Bryce Young is he's seen the absolute stinking state of his own game and his own sort of franchise's game. And I think that's what we're seeing from the sophomore quarterbacks year that had such a good season last year. Is they've really struggled this year because they've had so many different things thrown at them. People have learnt them a lot better, and the game plans change against them. We've seen Anthony Richardson really struggle. Obviously, CJ Stroud's having his problems. But Bryce Young, now that he's learnt, he seems to find a solution for every problem that gets thrown at him. If you want to bring the pressure, that's fine. I'll put something over your head. If you're going to kill my passing game, that's fine. I'll lean on my ground game. And that's what you want to be seeing from quarterbacks, smart quarterbacks as well. And it bodes really, really well from the Panthers, who have been absolutely shocking for the longest time, to say the very, very least.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And there was another quarterback this week who relied on his ground game a little bit, all right? He relied on his ground game. This was Jordan Love, okay? This was the Green Bay Packers. It was the San Francisco 49ers, okay? Taryn, do you see that? Do you see that? Or is that Josh Jacobs for his third touchdown of the day? No, he's just gone past Fred Warner. He's just gone past someone else. He's in the end zone, all right? I think it was go, Pack, go. Go, Pack, go. Cheesehead! Wait, what the Green Bay Packers? We love to see it. Absolutely incredible. The Green Bay Packers scored 38 points on the San Francisco 49ers. And I've got a bloody Edam on my tweed. Talk to me, mate. What happened? Tell me about.
Please don't tell me you've ordered that off Amazon.
I haven't. No, I haven't. This is a family relic, apparently. All right, this has been in someone's garage for 60 years or something like that.
Wow, I tell you what, it's come out at the perfect
time. Look at that. Magic.
That is
absolute magic.
That is class. Wow.
I don't even know how you're supposed to wear this, mate. Wear it like that.
Packers fans, let him know. Is he representing yourselves well? What is, awful. Looks like you got SpongeBob having a kip on your head. It's absolutely awful. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with everybody. I did not watch a second of this game this weekend. I'm going to be straight with everyone. Now, it's not because I'm a plastic. It's not because, I only watch when the team's winning. No, it's because I don't recognize this 49ers team. I honestly do not. All this week, right, I kept a close eye with the media. I really did. I watched every press conference and listened to them. Jokers, mate. Absolute jokers. Just whinging and moaning. You got Terrell Owens having a go at Debo. Debo's having a go at him, and they're calling him fat. That's not the franchise that I subscribed for. You know what I mean? It was an absolute joke. And I think a lot has been made of the fact that we've had injuries and we've had obviously Purdy not playing. But I'll be honest with you, the Packers handled it perfectly and said, well, we're still in this position when we had Jordan Love missing 3 games. You still got to go out there. You still got to play. That's 100% the fact. But this is the issue with our franchise at the moment. The decisions are absolutely disgusting. Why Brandon Allen was picked ahead of Joshua Dobbs, I don't know. Unless Joshua Dobbs was in a wheelchair, I don't understand why he wasn't playing. He had an unbelievable preseason.
In a space shuttle, he's on Mars.
Honestly, in preseason, he was ridiculous. Brandon Allen, I have no words for him. He's absolutely useless. He's dog shit. The only thing for me that is a point that I want to make at this point in time is I think the Niners are really suffering from a lack of cohesion and a lack of consistency. And it doesn't come from the offensive side, but I think it comes from the defensive and the special team side. And a big part of that is for the last 2-3 years after a season, they've either sacked, lost, or traded or moved on their coordinators. We've seen that with Sauler going, D'Amico Ryans, and obviously Steve Wilkes getting fired last year. And the problem is the Niners could hang their hat on that defense. And I love that Niners D because they're dogs. You go out there, you smack somebody, and every yard is hard. I've watched us make 4th and goal line stands at the 1 yard line. We can't do that anymore because 99 yards down the field, it's a touchdown. That's how absolute shite we are this year. And I think this lack of cohesion is really killing Kyle Shanahan because he's fucking useless when it comes to anything other than shafting his team. And I think it's killing the franchise. Doesn't matter how many players you pay and how many players you bring in. This Niners franchise has got a serious problem now that they need to solve in the off season by getting rid of players and restarting again. But they need some consistency, especially in the defensive side.
Joshua Dobbs, I would love to see him start. All right,
I really wish you did start.
But he's off to the moon. All right, he's really off to the moon. And what's the moon made of, Talon? It's made of cheese. Jesus. Go back, go. That's what they're saying, mate. That's what they're saying. Joshua Jacobs, unbelievable. Talon, shut your mother. Be quiet.
This might be the highlight of the podcast. Genuinely might be the highlight of the podcast. Again, did you watch it? Because I did not whatsoever.
All I woke up the next day was I saw Joshua Jacobs got me 28 fantasy points and won me my game in fantasy, but we'll come on to talk about that later on, bro. The 49ers are in a predicament. They really are in a predicament. Because it seems like there's a culture in the 49ers that no other organization has because no other team gets injuries.
Yeah.
No other team kind of loses the quarterback.
Yeah.
No other team loses the star running back. No other team has injuries at the key kind of skill positions. It's just the 49ers, and they love to whinge about it. They love to tell you that we're missing this player this week. We're missing this player this week. Missing this player. Who gives a flying fuck, Taron? You've got 11 men on the field at one time. Stop the goddamn run, all right? Make the goddamn run.
They keep sticking 12 on the field, the stupid donkeys. You know what I mean? Just learn to count.
Throw the flag. Get it ready, Taron.
Honestly, I've given up with the attitude. Like, I 100% agree with you. The Niners team that I knew, it was next man up. The amount of... I literally sat there and watched us win 13-10. And the offense scored no points. It was all special teams, all defense against the Packers. That was the trenches of the Niners team. But that was next man up. Doesn't matter who was injured. I don't know. I think the last 2 Super Bowl campaigns, the NFC game with Purdy getting injured and obviously Super Bowl loss, I think they've really damaged the psyche of this Niners team. It just feels like it's this victim whinging and moaning. Oh, we've been hard done by. That's football, unfortunately. It's not the team that I signed up for. It's not the team that I love. Shanahan, sort it out, you cheesehead.
It's time to go, Kyle Shanahan. Are you calling for his head?
I'm not yet.
What does he have to prove to you in the last part of the season for you to go, do you know what? He deserves another year as the coach of the 49ers. Because at the moment, bro, it ain't looking that good.
I just want to see some fun on offense again. Like, we saw these trick plays. We saw one in the Super Bowl. We saw one this weekend. that's what you need to be creative in the NFL. Like screen passes, hardly seen any of them this year. Like I say to you all the time, I want Purdy out the pocket. I want play actions. Bring that back. That's the whole identity of the offense. The defense, we had some amazing rookies come through this year, but it just seems like, I don't know, who the hell is calling it, because I paid no attention because it's absolutely shite. But you can't blame the fact you ain't got Bosa on the edge, and you're paying these people a lot of money, regardless what position they're in. There's no excuses. Go out there, play hard, play ball, and win the game. Simple as. I genuinely think come the end of the season, start next year, depending on who has left and who stayed and what the contracts and salary cap looks like, this could maybe be one of the last 2 years of Kyle Shanahan.
Wow, you've called it here, mate. One thing that I would say is I think your Super Bowl window is all but shut. It's closing. The door is not very kept open. One thing I would say though, mate, is you are an absolute, you are a slut for a screen pass. You've been that is your favourite play. That's all you've been calling for.
The intricacies of blocking is just beautiful.
you were born to be an offensive lineman, weren't you, bro?
Like I said, that's the first time a big man gets to go down the field, so I'm happy with that. I really.
And the big man can move. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the big man can move.
Any last words for week 12 in the NFL? I can't believe we're at week 12. We're literally at the end, mate, and it's gone a bit too fast for my liking.
And people are saying, but there's still loads of football to go. It's going until February. My team is not going until February. My team has got a couple of months left in him, and that's it. All right, until September. So I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to watch it as much as I can, and I'm going to turn up to work on Monday morning with bags under my eyes. But I don't care because I'll get to see Cooper Rush throw an interception, and that's what we love. All right, that's what this culture is made of. Okay. Yeah. We're hardened fans in the UK, aren't we, mate?
We are. We very much are. And we thank you, everybody, for joining us this week on the All Out Brits podcast. Make sure to keep yourselves peeled for our next 2 videos, our preview and our fantasy, because I tell you what, it's hotting up in fantasy. It's getting a little bit squeaky bum time. So make sure if you need a hand, we're here to help out. Make sure you comment about Mr. Cheesehead over here. I've never seen a Cowboys fan become a Packers fan overnight. We'll have a chat about that off podcast, I think.
I've got a Bears jersey as well, mate. I can do it all.
Mr. Unlimited over here. Lord of God. We thank you again. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Get yourselves involved on the TikTok as well. We want to be here next year, and we want to have more of you here next year as well, because it's all about tears here on this podcast. Tears and taking the piss. And so we shall see you next time on the All Out Brits podcast.
Tazzy the Cheesehead. Hey.